Hey guys, Michael from Modulus here. Today I'm going to do a quick talk just about different types of glues that we can use for covering our cabs in Tolex. And I'm going to talk about three types of glues in particular and the pros and cons of each one. And you can hopefully use that information to go get the right stuff from your local hardware shop. Okay, here we go. Right, first of all, when you go to the shop, you're going to need to look for glue that comes in some sort of quantity. So if you have these glues that come in the little tubes, really you want to avoid them because you're just not going to get enough in a tube. You're going to end up using loads of these and it's going to be the most expensive way forward. So don't worry about that. Over here in the UK, we often get smaller cans, which are ideal. That would do one cabinet, combo size cabinet fairly easily. And you get big bottles of glue as well. Okay. Right, the first type of glue that you'll see people using is actually just basic PVA glue, which is the same thing we often use as wood glue. This is quite a fast drying wood glue that we actually use for our cabinets here. This is the sort of stuff you'll get in your general sort of hardware shop. This is PVA glue, but it's a slightly runnier, thinner version of a wood glue, and you normally would find it actually in the tiling section because it's used as a sealer for tiling. So the advantage of using that sort of thing is because it's more runny, you can actually apply it with rollers and brushes a lot easier. This sort of glue is great for doing large surface areas, but when it comes to doing finicky things around corners and bits and bobs, I would tend to not use it. If you are going to use it for the whole cab and corners and things, then you just need to make sure you do your cuts and then use tape to hold it down to make sure the glue sets properly. And that should be fine. I've seen some cabs covered with PVA glue and with some great results. If you're using metal corners or plastic corners to hide your corners, then this is an easy way to go for sure. It's cost effective and everybody has access to PVA glue somewhere. The next type of glue that a lot of people would use is solvent-based contact adhesive. Now, when I started covering cabs, that's what we were using. You need to be in a well-ventilated area for starters, because otherwise you'll end up high by the end of a few cabs. But there's a few advantages and disadvantages of a solvent-based adhesive. The first one is it makes the material a bit softer because it's actually melting it. And that means when you come to doing corners and getting around, getting a nice fit and actually getting a bit of stretch in the material, you'll get a nice finish on the outside. Although I think one of the problems with that is you get a nice finish now, but then a year down the line, that solvent's still working and yet your corners might creak open. So not really the best from that point of view. But the biggest issue with solvent-based contact adhesives is if you apply it to the material and apply it to your wood, and you don't let it dry properly, you don't let it set, you don't follow the instructions and you apply it, what will happen is your material will start bubbling because what happens is the fabric sticks into the wood, but because the solvent is making the vinyl top more flexible, it actually causes air bubbles to be created. So you have to follow the instructions, you have to let it almost be ready to, tacky dry to the touch before you actually apply it if you're using solvent-based contact adhesive. We don't use it here, just health and safety and air and breathing and all that kind of stuff. And the glue we do use has a really big advantage over that, and I'll tell you what that is in a second. Right, the next type of glue is water-based contact adhesives. Now, if you go to the shop, you'll probably find some water-based contact adhesives. Here's one that we get in the UK. They're not all the same. They all work differently. They all have different compositions. Generally, they all have latex in them, which is quite important. The one we use, which comes in the big can, has ammonia in it as well. So it smells like pee. So I went online looking for other water-based contact adhesives that have ammonia in them and latex. That's one of them. I've got another sample coming. just to see what else I can find. The ones that have the ammonia and the latex do tend to work better for some reason. The great thing about using this sort of glue is you can apply it to your two surfaces. You can let it dry totally. You can come back to it the next day, or you can come back to it a week later if you want to. And to reset the glue, all you need to do is use a heat gun and just heat both surfaces, and then just apply them and bond them. And that's really, really easy. What it also means for me is I can apply glue to that whole piece of fabric, and I can apply glue to the wood, all the way around the wood, and then when I'm doing my covering, I'm just heating and cutting and covering, and it goes really, really quickly. The one disadvantage about this sort of glue is if you have to pull it apart, is you sometimes get little knobbles of glue that would get caught up, and you need to make sure that before you glue back down that they are removed, because otherwise you get little bumps in the Tolex. Right, so this is the latex-based contact adhesive. Just quickly apply it. Just using a brush is the easiest way. If you're doing large surfaces, you can use a roller for it too. Right, now if I left this to dry, it's probably going to take 15-20 minutes just to actually dry off. So instead of leaving it, I'm actually just going to take my heat gun and just dry it up. Okay, that's pretty tacky already, so I'm just going to stick it down. Right. We'll just go down the edges. The only thing with the heat gun is you just need to watch you don't put too much heat into it, because obviously you can melt the vinyl, especially if you have a high powered heat gun. There you go. Well, I hope you found that helpful and that it helps you get a really pro quality finish on your cabinets. If you did and you like this sort of thing, please click subscribe and we'll make some more video content just like this. Cheers!